Okay, it's working. Can anyone, one, tell me if you can hear me? Two, tell me if you can see me. And three, tell me if the presentation that's on the screen with me is in reverse for you. That would be awesome because it's backwards on the Run the World thing, but not on my screen. And I don't know exactly how to flip that. Oh, it does look good. Oh, well, sweet. I just can't look at this Run the World thing because it's all backwards for me. Hi, guys. I'm ready to go. I started in like 2 seconds. I'm just going to wait for a few more people that are spilling over from the next talk. Hey, Zach. Hey, everything looks good on your screen too, right? Okay. Well, cool. All right. Well, I will only use that screen for the comments then, so I don't confuse myself. All right. Looks like some people are finally coming in. If you type a question and I don't answer it, it's probably because I didn't get to it. I will have ample time, or I hope, in the end for questions and answers. But if you've ever seen me talk in person and or been to one of these, I tend to I tend to take up most of the time talking. So I will try my best to leave the most amount of time excuse me, for questions and answers. Okay. I'm going to get into it, and keep in mind, I've got like a million slides this time just to keep me a little bit organized and help you guys follow along because I tend to go on tangents. This should help, visually for all you guys to see what's going on. If you want me to go back, I can always go back on the end. So if I go too fast, just say, hey, I want to go back and see the custom pictures, or hey, I want to go learn more about the DIY stuff. And I'll just pull it all back up at the end. And then at some point, my brother should jump in. He's going to show you guys some videos and give me a chance to, like a restroom break or something. All right, I'm getting into it. We're starting. So today I'm talking about the how-tos of tiny homes, tips, and then plus that big Q&A at the end. I'm going to try my best to answer as many of the questions, not in the Q&A, that more specific stuff, but just the general, where do you put these things? How do you finance them? How do they hook up? Utility stuff. Some of you may already know this. If you do, maybe you learn something new. Maybe you can reach out at the end and teach me something. So, but that's kind of what this is all about. I learned that today, and so I made this presentation. But I thought I was doing like design and construction. But Zach and Jason, they always have a way to throw something at me. So this is my affiliations with the tiny home industry as a whole. I co-founded California Tiny House, which is kind of who I'm speaking on behalf today. We have a family nonprofit. I'm the vice president of the American Tiny House Association, director of vocational education through Tiny Home Industry Association, or THEA. I'm a co-chair of the National Tiny Home Builders Committee. It's kind of like all of us, tiny home builders kind of all grouped in, sharing a common goal. Tiny House Inc. It's an educational program that we came up with for DIYers and schools. And then a voting member of the International Code Council's Committee for Modular Tiny Houses and other modular houses. So kind of got dipped into a little bit of everything. What's this whole thing about? I kind of already talked about how-tos of stuff. I'll tell you a little bit about how we got started. Most of you guys have probably already heard it. If not, feel free to call me anytime. DIY versus having a home built by a professional, preparing for your tiny journey. Everybody's tiny house journey is different, whether you want to buy, whether you want to use them as investments, whether you want to just sell tiny homes. I mean, everybody's kind of got a different thing. There's a lot of different avenues that you can go in this industry because it's crazy. It's so super vast and awesome. Tiny home resources. Where can you get more information? And then obviously the question and answer part. Quickly touch on what is a tiny house? I mean, most of you guys are here, or guys and gals, whatever. You guys are all here because you're interested in tiny house. I'm sure you know what they are. But the industry is kind of changing a little bit here and there. If nothing else, it's growing. And what I mean by that is there's not just your typical movable tiny house or tiny home on wheels, that people are building anymore. There's like a ton of different products. One of which is a modular. So a modular tiny home is similar in the fact that it's built in a factory, but it's shipped on site and mounted to a permanent foundation, meaning it never moves. Is it still a tiny house? I mean, yeah, you can go, down to 120 square feet with those things. So I would consider it a tiny house. Just has a different building code. And then there's HUD, which is essentially like a manufactured, it's Department of Housing and Urban Development. They have a limit of 320 and above. Most of people would recognize the term as like a mobile home. However, you can still build a tiny house with the same tiny house quality of materials and craftsmanship, just built to that same code. And if you're asking why would anyone do that, I'll probably touch more on it later. But mainly it's because there's a lot more legal pathways to placement and ton of better financing. So they comply with ANSI, which is an RV thing, IRC, HUD, certified versus non-certified. It's like if you're building a traditional home and you pull permits, or you have like an unlicensed contractor do it. It's the whole point of it is to have somebody, some entity, whether it's a state, a federal, or some type of inspection, looking over your shoulder to make sure that what you're doing is correct, and not just your builder. Making sure that the whole process is done correctly. Accredited associations for certification: Radco, PFS, PacWest. There's probably a dozen. Good rule of thumb is if you want to see who's accredited in your state, usually there's a state roster. Okay, so these are some of the how-tos I'm going to cover, some more in depth than others, but purchasing a tiny home, building your own, how to set up a tiny house, meaning like you get it on site and what do you do next? How do you hook up to utilities and what do those look like? How to transport a tiny home, finding land, legal placement, choosing a style that's right for you. And as I reviewed this, 10 minutes before I'm on now, I realized that style isn't exactly the word that I should have used. It's more like finding a design that works for you, but I'll touch more on that later. How to choose a builder. Now, obviously I am a builder, so I'm going to be a little bit biased, but I'm going to try to keep, my company out of that as much as possible. Understanding tiny home pricing. I'm sure anybody who's been following tiny house for a while, 10 years ago, they were half the price. Well, what's going on? What's changing? And I'm going to talk about that from a builder's perspective anyway. How to prepare yourself for your tiny house journey, how to sell your tiny home. Maybe you already own a tiny home and your family's growing or you're moving and you don't want to feel stuck or trapped. I'm going to touch up a little bit about what you can do. Using tiny homes as an investment. I added this in because it's one of the most requested, frequently asked questions, I guess, that I get nowadays. Because there's a ton of people that maybe they don't want to live in a tiny home, but they want to, buy a property by the coast, put a tiny home on it, rent it out on, VRBO or Airbnb or one of those vacation rental, company sites, but then also have a place that they or their family can go stay when they want to and make money. How to be more involved, how to finance a tiny home. I'm gonna not get too in depth in that because it can be a really lengthy conversation, but I am gonna hit on the main points, and then how to get real facts and info on tiny homes. And say real, there's so much information out there, as you guys well know, with any topic on the internet. You can find, pros and cons to everything, or different opinions on everything. There are, however, real facts on tiny houses, where you can put them, what you're supposed to use to build them, what the certification is supposed to be, and who are the people that are supposed to be doing it. I'm going to tell you a great way to kind of weed through the I don't want to say fake news, but to weed through the false stuff. Let's put it that way. Oh yeah, and some tiny houses. So we have a visual. You guys all still with me? Okay. I'm gonna just say yes. All right. Once again, this is gonna be fast. Don't worry, I can always go back. But I don't know how long all these slides are gonna take me. And I got some videos. Purchasing. When you're purchasing a tiny home, you're ready to purchase it, or you've got all your stuff ready to go. It really comes down to 3 options. Do you want to buy a custom? Do you want to buy a model? Or 3, do you want to build it yourself? And how does that fall under purchasing? Well, you're still purchasing the materials. You're just not purchasing the labor. So custom homes, that's the first option. What's great about custom is you can kind of tailor a house to fit you. The downside's the cost. It's way more work for a builder, way more sourcing of materials, a ton more time invested into a client, which, don't get me wrong, that is very fun stuff to do, but time, you have to pay for people's time, and it does get very, very expensive. Also, the process is going to be longer. So keep in mind, going to a builder and they have, 10 models or something on the floor. If you decide not to buy one of those and go custom, you're going to have to expect it to be built to order and take quite a bit more time. Models, you can buy a model, but there are a couple different kinds. One would be like, hey, we've got these 12 pre-designed models, which is usually just a builder's way of saying, hey, we built 12 custom homes for clients, and now we've made them models because we've already done them. They're still going to be built to order. It's still going to take a little bit more time to get them versus like a production model where a company is producing the same 5 models or the same 1 model or the same 3 models over and over and over again. And they have either an inventory, a dealer network, or something where you're like, man, I need a house tomorrow. Where can I go? Those are going to be the guys. Oh yeah, 2 types of models. There you go. I touched on that. And then do it yourself. You get to design your own home. You get to build your own home. It's the least expensive option because you're cutting out all the labor, overhead, and pretty much everything else minus like sales tax, because you're just paying sales tax to wherever you're buying the materials. Models. So just talked about models. This is our, and I won't get too much into this because I know my brother's coming on at some point to show you guys a video. This is our 2022 model. You won't see them on our website yet, but we just kind of are in the process of launching it. It's this and a few others, but this is kind of like the bread and butter. Oh yeah, here, let me show you a video. Also, while I'm playing this, let me know if you can hear the sound because I think it comes through my computer speakers. If you can't, it's not the end of the world. I just will know it for future videos. Is it loud though, or is it quiet? Okay, quiet's better than loud. I don't want to blow anyone's eardrums. So what this is more than any other type of tiny home, we get requests for single levels. with dedicated bedrooms, but they want the same height as if they had a loft. So the house feels really, really large, really big windows, really big and spacious and open. But more often than not, when they're using the unit as either a vacation rental or a guest house, or they're just living in it, we found that most people prefer a single level. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't build loft units still. Of course we do. But it's all done by market research. Mark, I will absolutely answer that, but ask me at the end. But I promise I will get to it. Okay. So this is some interior shots of that model. Like I said, big and open. And big, I mean, that's a relative term, obviously, for a tiny home. However, this one is, pretty big for a tiny home. Full height kitchen, big spacious living room, big spacious bedroom, nice sized bathroom. This is on a 32 by 10 foot platform. We also have a 24 and a 40. Scott, why can you hit the air on? Can you do it right now, though? Thanks. Scott just came in. Okay, more shots of the model. Scott's my brother, for those of you that don't know. Nice big bedroom, like I said. And this is more of like a premium model. We're kind of starting out with already high quality stuff. We do have options, but we'll talk more about this. Scott doesn't want me to steal his thunder on the model.
I don't care.
Oh, he says he doesn't care. Okay, customs. Customs are awesome, but keep in mind that what's happening here? All right, customs are great, but keep in mind that the process behind them is really long, mainly because of the way everything has to be designed from start to finish. Then a builder, once they have a design that they kind of know they want to, know the client really wants, and we have to go out and source all those specific materials because they're all kind of different between every build. Very rarely do you get two custom customers that want the exact same thing, if that makes sense. Thank you, sir. Now I got a ton of custom pictures here. I'm going to click through them pretty quick. I can always go back. So, different styles of homes. Thank you. Or is that yours? Oh, thanks. Different style of entryways into loft bedrooms, downstairs bedrooms. We really like, this kind of model here where like here and right here where you have a landing that you can walk up and like stand next to your bed. So you're not just like crawling in on your hands and knees. More customs showing that, that landing right here where you can walk up, stand next to your bed. We found it's a lot more comfortable. Okay. More staircases, customs, bathrooms. You can do just about whatever you want. I mean, your entire tiny home, if you wanted, could literally be one gigantic bathroom. Not that most people would want that, but you could. Why not? If it's a custom home, you could do just about whatever you want. Make the whole thing a bathroom. More customs. I'm going to go through these quick. So if you see something, just screenshot it or whatever. Try and remember something. Big, open, vast spaces. Lots of different styles of materials. Different kitchens, different bathrooms. When you deal with customs, you pay for it, but you can get, pretty wild. Downstairs bedroom, with lofts, Murphy beds. The pictures on the right, which I'm kind of blocking, it's like a stacked. It's kind of like a Z-shaped space in the back that has one downstairs bedroom and one loft bedroom, both with standing height. Goosenecks. Oh, Siri, quit it. Goosenecks, more lofts, big lofts, Murphy beds, all sorts of weird stuff. Using the space, when you're dealing with custom, at least something that my brother and I ask a lot is, what are you storing? What kind of items do you have? What's the stuff that's most important to you? If you have a huge library and you love to read, we want to make sure that we have shelving for books, and plenty of it. If you have like a lot of knickknacks or, masks or plates or spoon collection, whatever it is, we don't really care. We want to make sure that if it's important to you, it's in your home, or it's not going to feel like your home, and that's where customizing something with any builder, you can get those kind of in-depth things, which we love. More customs. These are like walk-in closets. Cool use of space. More cool uses of space. Just more stuff. I'll come back to all this if I need to. More custom kitchens, fold down stuff, pull out trundle beds, custom outdoor spaces, Depending on your builder, they may not build the outdoor space, but they may help you design it. I don't know. You have to talk to them. Commercial projects, we do a handful every year. They're fun. They're all right. Last one was a popsicle company. This one's like a IHOP. Okay. We talked about models. Models are great if maybe you're not living full time, or you don't have that much specific stuff, or just if you want the shell of a tiny house that's kind of got everything ready to be lived in right away, and then you want to like paint your own walls and add your own furniture. A model can work really great for a lot of people. They're kind of all designed by market research of what appeals to the most people. And that's kind of, at least on our side of it. A lot of the things I'm going to say are opinions, so keep that in mind. But I have had a lot of time in the industry, so I hope I know what I'm talking about. Anyways, so do-it-yourself tiny homes. This is kind of my go-to, I guess, checklist. Gotta scoot myself over here. My go-to checklist of what I think will make for a successful build. What I mean is you'll have more assistance, less issues on everything from the start of the build all the way until you sell it or place it. And some of those things are a really good, solid set of plans. You can absolutely make your own. If you do that, though, make sure you have an engineer check it. Super important. The professional tiny home people that are doing plans, we're making sure that they're safe, or it's something that we've built 100 times and we know that it's going to work. When you do your own, there's certain considerations that not a lot of people think. Even architects that, we've done plenty of projects for architects that drew plans that just didn't quite work. Because when you're designing a typical house, you don't think of things like weight distribution and, driving it down a highway. Those are kind of weird considerations that most people don't think of, but it is something that you have to plan ahead for, especially when you're drawing out a tiny house. So draw something out, get it looked at by an engineer. Find a course, find a workshop, something to get you going. It might help you, even if you already know about construction or you're already a house builder, it might help you just kind of get that one little bit of information that you need to get that extra bit of safety. Okay. Oh yeah, budget yourself. Then after you spend all of your money, budget again. I'd say do 3 budgets because what a lot of people do is they budget, they'll make, okay, I can spend this much money, and they factor in the price of a 2x4 at, by $4, and I need 27 of these. Well, during the course of their build, they ruined, 16 of them because they accidentally cut the wrong cut. Not because they don't know what they're doing, but because sometimes it happens, even to professionals. People make mistakes. Just keep a budget, make like a oopsie daisy budget. I messed up stuff. Or, hey, this is if I want to get the premium stuff, because builds can take a decent amount of time. I mean, I'd say like a short DIY would be like 3 months. That'd be probably the shortest that I've seen. Even in 3 months, once you get going, you get real excited. You start researching stuff. Well, that little cutesy fireplace that you wanted, that you were going to buy, and it was, $200 on Amazon or something, you found out is terrible. And then the second one you wanted is $3,000, and it's like a Kimberly sailboat one. Well, it wouldn't be in budget. So budget's super important. Choose materials that hold up. More often than not, in the DIY crowd, you see reuse and recycle stuff, which I think is awesome. I really, truly do. I love reclaimed wood. I love reclaimed sinks and lighting fixtures. I mean, it's awesome stuff to use. However, make sure that the structural components are new. If you're using steel or wood, make sure you're using brand new 2x4s. Make sure you're using, new steel studs. Don't try and reuse a trailer. That's probably the biggest one. A lot of people try and take car trailers or RV trailers or boat trailers and convert them to tiny home trailers. It does not work very well. They're pretty specific, and they're built in such a way that they can hold the weight of a house and distribute it in the way that the weight of a house is supposed to be held. If that makes sense, you have, supporting walls. So, you got your house like this. Well, the weight is supported here and here on the outsides, not necessarily here. So the structure and the way that a trailer is built in order to support a house type structure is not the same as a car. It's not the same as a boat. Buy yourself, spend the money, buy a tiny home trailer. That's my thoughts. I'm going to beat that horse. Build location and weather conditions. Build location is, depending on where you're at, you may have, you may be inside, you may be outside, you may be building it in a spot that you could get the trailer and you could drive and truck in the materials, and you find out that you no longer can get your house out. This is especially true in backyards, but maybe the whole point was to leave it in the backyard. That's fine. Just know that, keep that in mind, that these get a lot bigger and a lot harder to maneuver than a bare trailer once there's, 11 and a half feet stacked on top of them. Uh-oh. Hello? Are you guys still there? That's not good. I don't know if I lost you guys. I'm going to keep talking until I find out if I did. Give me 1 sec. Let me text Zach. Hold on, guys. Oh, okay. He says we can still hear and see me. Great. Well, then I'll keep going. I don't know what happened, but my screen just went completely black. So I'm going to keep moving on. Certification. It's another thing with DIY. Certification, just like I touched on earlier, make sure that you have somebody kind of keeping you and what you're doing in check. It's important, even for professional builders. We all have that. Tiny house education. This is a perfect kind of segue into where I'm going next with the DIY stuff. We started out forming a nonprofit that worked with high schools, community colleges, conservation corps, urban development places, adult schools, juvenile hall facilities, basically any type of learning institution, teaching them, bringing in trade skills to teach the students, regardless of age, skills in the trades, where so many people are coming out of college doing computer lab stuff that are wanting jobs in that field. And we're just seeing less and less people that want to be plumbers. And, maybe they do, maybe they don't want to go to college. That's not really our, what for us to say, but we want to help anyways, the youth kind of build up some of the skills that are being lost, especially with all the baby boomers retiring. But as we worked with these schools, we got these programs kind of ingrained in them. We found out that there was a really cool opportunity to also help the DIY community, which brings us to a DIY online tiny home course. We developed this quite a few years ago for schools only. Those of you that were on, that watched me talk on the Global Tiny House Conference last time, I mentioned early registration. It was coming out in December. Yeah, it didn't happen. Our test groups and, intellectual property attorneys, it's a whole thing. Anyways, it's still coming to DIY. It's just taking longer than we want because of all these hoops and hurdles that we have to jump over and jump through. So we're still working on it. The program's already done, ready to go. We just have to get through the last phases. But all of those things that I mentioned, this program has. Wasn't intentionally for DIY, but it worked out. Super great plans, step-by-step instructions, material lists, membership groups where you can communicate with everything. It's very cool. It's all based on chapters, and it's got kind of like a foolproof, certification process behind it where you can't advance until your house has been inspected. Just like if you were to build and permit a traditional house, you get to a certain point, pour a concrete pad, for example, you can't frame on top of that until it's been inspected. You actually can't even pour your concrete pad until the foundation work underneath has been inspected. So it's very similar in that way, where it's restrictive until somebody has approved what you've done. But it allows a DIYer to get a certification, which is pretty cool. Introducing Tiny House Inc. This was developed for schools and DIYers to help them kind of go through it. There you go, rooted from our CTE experience. Here's some examples. Our plans, not at all what you would see in a traditional plan set or just like basic blueprints. Everything's broken down into a ton more detail. It's got other options. Anyways, just saying this is an option out there. Not saying it's for everybody. You absolutely don't have to buy it. Okay, going to quickly show you guys a video. This is kind of a sample of what the course structure looks like. I probably won't watch the whole video because it's a little bit long. And I am talking. I don't know if you can hear me very well, but if not, I'll just talk over it. And I can't see your comments anymore. So my screen is black.
Always check the document areas for updated stuff to make sure that you have the most current information. It's going to sit here.
So yeah, everything's kind of like structured just like almost like a
is when you're done
YouTube series.
Here, you're going to
and then this is all part of the I'm just going to turn this. This is kind of all part of how it works. So there's a lot of graphics, there's a lot of digital renderings, there's a lot of actual video where you or someone is building a home alongside me. Okay.
If the
But I'm going
shower
to
is
skip
larger
this.
than your door, make sure you put it in before.
I can't see if anybody still wants to watch it, so
when you get to your interior wall,
I can come back and watch it at the end. But I want to keep people engaged here. So it's an online course, allows you to get certified in the end. Quick promo. You guys can see a little bit more of the like video content, I guess, of what it looks like. Hey, look at me, same shirt. It's like the only shirt I own. This and like 2 others. So for those of you that want to do a DIY and you're worried about it or you need some help, it may not even be the house that you're building. This is an awesome resource. And there's other ones, as far as I know. Not positive about that, or I don't know the quality of them, but ours is pretty dang good. And it's been used for quite some time now with teaching like 16 and 17-year-olds how to build. We use like a lot of GoPros and cool camera angles and all sorts of stuff. Anyways, I'll skip the promo. If you guys want to watch it later, somehow I'll get my Google Chrome, screen back loaded so I can see what's going on with you guys. Some people are okay. Sorry, I'm trying to. The only way I can communicate with Zach right now is by text message. It's kind of blurry. Okay, just gonna take a pause. Let my internets get better. Okay, so as long as you can still hear me at this point, we're good. Oh, yeah, let me refresh. I just don't want to kill the... Hey, there I am. Okay. All right. Okay, so now that I know if my screen turns black, that I'll just refresh it and you guys will lose me for a second. Okay. I'm not going to go back. It was just some like DIY course video stuff. If you want to ask more questions about it, we'll wait till the end, or I'll give you guys like an email thing at the end. You can, for like all of our multiple different emails, you can figure it out. Okay. So the real reason I'm here, tiny house, how-tos, tips and tricks, all that kind of stuff. Let's go. So, tiny home utilities. I get asked this all the time. How do you hook them up? What do I need on site? These are the type of utility questions I'm talking about. What size pipe? Does it need a garden hose? Can I hook it up directly? Can I bolt it to a foundation? So not so much the foundation one, but the utility part I'll talk about now. So a movable tiny home, hook up like an RV. The movable tiny home, remember that's under that ANSI certification, park model RV. They are treated more like an RV, as in they can be placed in parks, in mobile home parks, in certain areas as both primary residences and accessory dwelling units, especially in the state of California. We have like crazy legislation that allows you to do this. Am I still blurry? Yes. I have pretty good internet. There's probably 12 people using this internet. One of which is my brother. Is my screen like the actual written part blurry or just my camera? Everything. Oh, man. Okay. I'm going to refresh again, and we'll see what happens. Give me 1 sec. Because I've got like pretty good internet. It did it after my brother arrived. Yeah, that sounds about right. Oh, I like that. That's funny. Okay, let's see if this helps. I keep having to go back to comments. Better? Okay. If it gets blurry again, it only takes like 30 seconds. I'll just refresh it. But yeah, I'd say it's probably Scott's fault. Okay, so back to where I was. Movables, the kind that you see hooked up to pickup trucks driving down the highway, those typically connect like an RV. So they have a set of outlets or plugs and hoses, sewer, water, and then electricity plug. A modular or a HUD unit, this is that kind of, a modular is like a fully permanent unit. A HUD is, it could be personal property or it could be movable. Which one do you kind of want to do? Do you want personal property or do you want it connected to a foundation? Those connect more like a traditional home though. So once they're on site, instead of having like a RV, sewer septic hose running to a dump area, a garden hose connected to the house, those would be hard piped or like plumbed in and glued in or screwed in, more of a permanent connection. Doesn't mean you can't move them, but when they're connected in a more permanent fashion. Common utilities, electricity, plumbing, sewer, gas, like I mentioned. When you're adding any type of utilities, not every tiny house has gas, not every tiny home has 100 amps. It's good to double check what the requirements are of the tiny house that you're planning on putting there. But let's say you don't know. Let's say, hey, I know that I want to put a tiny home in this, backyard, but I don't know what size or I don't know what the connections are. Best rule of thumb, do some overkill. Put a nice, a good sewer connection. Put a 3/4 inch water. Put a 100 amp or 80 amp or even a 50 amp minimum power supply. That way you have a lot of, flexibility with what it, dang it, already? It's probably the new building. We just moved like a month ago into this new building, but the internet's actually been really great. So let me see what's going on. Okay. Oh, that got too big. You can still hear me fine, but it's still blurry. It's okay. We already read this slide. All right, good. You guys already read it. I'm going to skip it. So tiny home transport, movable tiny homes, they're like an RV. They're going to be hooked up to a pickup truck. They're going to be hauled down the highway. They're going to be backed into a location. Most common size, 8.5 feet wide. You see, anytime you're looking at most of the tiny homes you see on television, most of the tiny homes you see at festivals or shows, in fact, most of the tiny homes that builders build today, they are 8.5 feet wide. And the reason for that is there's no special license requirement, no permits, no additional anything needed to pull them. Anybody with a driver's license or a Class C license can absolutely pull a tiny home. Does that mean everybody with a Class C license should pull a tiny home? No. If you're not experienced at moving a trailer, or you don't want to at least practice, I would not suggest moving them. They're big, they're heavy. They don't pull. I learned how to drive, like literally learned how to drive with a trailer because my dad was a contractor and the dump was the only place he felt that he could put me behind the driver's seat and I wouldn't crash into everything. So that's where I learned how to drive from my dad at the dump in Fresno. I'd back up the truck into the thing, and we'd unload all the trash. It was a great time. But if you're not experienced driving trailers, I would not recommend it. Now, tiny homes can go up to 13 feet in width. I think it's 13 and a half, really. But does that mean you should? I don't know. I guess that's really up to you as, the person buying it or building it, how big you want to go. Personally, I think as an oversized load, 10 and a half is probably the magic number. The reason I say that is when you have something that's 10 and a half, you need a Class A license to pull it, but that does not mean that you have to have, pace cars and all the other crazy stuff that makes it super expensive. Plus, you can still pull it with a regular pickup truck. You don't need any specialty truck. Make sure the truck is capable of hauling the load and the hitch is the correct one. There's different classes that can carry different weights. I'll let you guys do your research on that. Plan your route, especially when it comes to parking. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, I need to park. It can be as much as like, I'm driving around and I want to put it in this driveway right here. But depending on which, route you take, you can come in two different directions. One is impossible. And the only way that you can back it into the slot is to pull out into like a major intersection. Whereas the other one, if you pulled off that major intersection, you'd be on a side street. Little things like that. You'd be surprised at how many times they're screwed up. Get a spotter, know your limits, know what you're comfortable with. Worst case scenario, if you say, hey, I don't want to do this. I'm not comfortable, makes me nervous, gives me anxiety. Or, I don't want to upgrade my insurance when I'm pulling this thing. Hire a professional. There's a group of people that all they do all day long is pull tiny homes and stuff that's related, cars and, things that cost way more than probably a tiny home. They're insured, they're bonded, they're competent, and they've got really capable commercial trucks. How's the screen? Blurry? Not blurry? Looking blurry. Nice. Gosh dang it. Can't seem to fix that. I'm going to refresh as I do this slide. And we'll just all blame Scott when he comes on, yeah? Can we all agree on that? Wow, it's taking like longer and longer. Okay. Hopefully this is fixed. It's probably not, but we're moving on. We don't have time. Tiny home placement. I don't know if there's any other builders on this call. Probably not. But if there are, they would all tell you the same thing. We get so many calls and they go, where do I find land? And very few of us have the answer because we are home builders or manufacturers and we're not real estate licensed and, we're not brokers and that's not really in our wheelhouse. Now, with that being said, finding land to buy is going to completely depend on where you're located, what your opportunities are. Usually, good rule of thumb is like county. Why? You can kind of get a little bit more in county. You can find properties a little bit easier in the county versus the city. Cities have different rules, but if you have a city, for example, like the city of Oakland, that allows you to buy a bare lot and put a tiny home as a single family residential, then yeah, that's awesome, because then you don't have to. This is why the internet's bad. Right there. Take a good look, guys. Can you even see me anymore? Oh, there I am. All right. Hold on, Scott. Let me at least finish my thing, and then you can come back in. I'll explain now. Okay. Back to land. If you have the opportunity to be in an area that allows them legally, absolutely, that's going to be your best bet. Definitely. Renting land, totally different. If you're not buying it and you're renting a space, how do you find those people? Well, there's great resources, and there's more and more. I don't actually know the names to all of them, but there's, I've seen people use Facebook, Craigslist, Tiny Home Industry Association, and I think there's a couple more. Don't know the names, but if you email me after this at some point, I can absolutely get them to you. What land works best? Let's assume that you're buying. If you're buying bare land, search tiny house villages. There you go, Loretta. I don't actually know that one, but that might be a great resource. What land works best? Say you're buying a piece of county land and you're going, okay, well, I found this really great piece of land, but there's nothing on it, no utilities, and I want to put a movable tiny home. I want to bring my tiny house out there and set it there. And then I want utility connections to come in and tie into it. Very unlikely that that's going to happen unless you get a permit to build a main structure. And every state's a little bit different. I mean, don't get me wrong. Any state, you could buy a piece of land and you could just throw a tiny house on it and live until you get in trouble. In some states or in some municipalities, you may have 10 years, and some you may have 10 minutes. And that's the truth. And a lot of people live illegally. I don't condone it, but you got to do what you got to do sometimes. So if it were me and I were looking for county property to put a tiny house and live there, whether or not it's legal or illegal, I would look for a property that has a structure on it of little to no value. Typically, mobile homes. Find a dilapidated, property with a dilapidated mobile home. Keep the mobile home. You don't even have to get rid of it. But use it for the utilities, because the utilities are gold. You can't get those very easily. And even nowadays, I say nowadays like it's been like 100 years. Even right now, it's so much more expensive to add utilities anywhere. Utility prices and install is like skyrocketed. So find something, even if it's burned down. Remember, you don't care about the structure, the mobile home, the whatever it is, the single family house. Find something that has no value. Maybe work on it. Turn it into a storage thing, or like a pool table room, or some other indoor garden. Whatever it is that you want to do, but keep the structure. I would. Anyways. That's my 2 cents on that. Accessibility. There's a lot of really affordable properties out there, especially in the county or in the mountains, but you can't get to them. Don't spend any money on a property to put your tiny house that has no chance of ever having a tiny house on it, unless you build it. That's different. But I mean, unless you have access to like a helicopter, then do what you must. But you're probably not buying tiny homes. And then also I said like how a tiny home will be used. If it's temporary living, you can put them a lot more places. So you could buy that bare piece of county land and you could have a temporary house. You stay in it on the weekends. It's no different than buying a piece of land, putting a travel trailer or, an Airstream on it, and then going and camping for the weekend or a couple weeks. In a lot of areas, that's totally fine. So it's all depends on how you do it. Contacting local building zoning departments. If you need help with that, call or reach out to THEA, the Tiny Home Industry Association. That's literally what they do. They train people and help people and advocate for change in legalization for tiny homes. So reach out to them. If you don't reach out to them and you go on your own, that's okay. But make sure that you use correct terminology. If you need correct terminology, once again, I'd go to THEA. You can also call us, but saying the wrong thing is worse than saying nothing, because you can actually hurt not only your chances of placing a home, but everybody else's to follow, or people that have already placed their home and they're kind of doing it under the radar. So just be real careful about what you say to like municipalities. And if you don't know, there's people to help. Permitting, certain areas do require permits. Site prep, it's always a thing. I don't care what it is. You can very rarely just pull a tiny house up onto a thing of grass and say, oh, it's done, it's placed. Because a lot of times the weight will cause it to settle. It can't be leveled properly. It does require a little bit. It's not, exorbitant, but it does require a little bit to make them sit properly. We all good? Still blurry? Man, Loretta, you're a rock star. You're on point. All right, great. So remember I said tiny home styles. I don't really like styles. I think when I wrote this earlier, I thought that it sounded right, but it's more like design elements. How to know what is kind of the best tiny house design for you. Simple answer is lifestyle. Think about how you live. Think about a daily routine. A lot of times, Scott and I, with our custom clients, we would give them homework, sticking stickers on items that are using in their house and kind of their routine, their daily routine for even up to a month. And what it tells us is, it tells us just as much as it tells them, which is the best part. But it kind of tells us that, oh, I understand, what's a priority in their life that they never even mentioned to us on our first kind of initial discussions. But now we know what that is. We absolutely have to add that into their home. And in turn, the client would find out that, wow, I mentioned how important having a stove was, only to find out that I haven't used my stove in 6 months. Maybe I could get like a convection microwave so I could still bake small stuff. But, maybe I'm not hosting Thanksgiving this year. You learn so much about yourself when you just take a minute to think about what your routine is and how you kind of live your life. Scott can touch more on that later. He's like a pro at it, and also destroying internet connections. Accessibility, I mentioned that earlier. Accessibility, location, obviously, and utilities. Make sure you put it in a place that has the correct utilities. If you have a spot that has a 30 amp connection and you design or build a 50 amp tiny house, it may not work. You're going to have to redo all the electrical. It may not be visually what you like the most. We've had more than a dozen times customers call us that see like tiny homes on TV with lofts or some other element in them, and they think that they're going to love them until they realize, we'll give them, hey, make sure, you have a loft. You don't want a landing. It's coming up with a ladder. Remember, you're going to have to make your bed on your bed. Changing your sheets on your bed. It's going to be in a tight area. So just practice it. Do it on your bed at home. Crawl on your bed. Try and make your bed. Just make sure that it's something you're comfortable with before you, spend a ton of money building this custom house. And the music? I don't hear any music. Nope. It's Scott. Scott, turn your music off. It's banjos?
Yeah, I have no idea I don't hear any music, so maybe they have banjos playing outside of where they are, but my microphone is muted, so I don't know.
Banjos.
So whoever's hearing the music is probably hearing it where they are. I'm gonna guess.
Old tabs open from, no, I do not. I have one tab. That one. The people. Oh, not me. Oh. Good call. Well, if I could hear the banjos, I could read my little thing here to the same kind of tempo and rhythm. It could be cool, but I can't hear them, so I'll just see it. Oh yeah, no, we don't. No one wants to see that. No one wants to be subjected to that kind of torture. I don't know that I could do a country accent very well. I maybe I try, but I think it just the screen is still blurry. Okay. I'm going to refresh my screen again. Oh, see, I thought about turning off my camera, but man, it's like takes a minute, a good minute to boot up. I know you do. Just use the camera button in the bottom left corner. Man, Scott, you're bottom left corner of what? Oh, this? Did that do anything? Can you guys see me? Oh, I just turned my camera off. You're no help. Yeah, you can't see the screen share because of this app that allows my screen to look. It's a whole thing. We don't need to get into it. As long as it's working, I'm moving on. Moving on. Maybe that's a fast way to kind of reset it. Exactly. Damn technology. It gets you every time. Back to tiny home design considerations when choosing what you want. Last but not least, think about how the house will be used. If you were buying a house to use it as a vacation home that you will also be renting out to other people, don't design it so specific to yourself, even though you really, really love it and you really love that style. Make it appeal to the masses so that you can make it appealing to the masses and get more people to rent it, if that makes sense. If you're planning on, getting something and you're like, well, I could deal with the loft for a couple years, but then I really want a downstairs bedroom, just get a downstairs bedroom. You maybe use a loft for storage instead of sleeping. Not only should you plan for what you want now, but plan for the next 3 to 5 years. I mean, I think that kind of goes for like just about anything people do, but life advice by Nick. Where am I at here? We're actually doing pretty good. So, Deanna, that's a great question. Real quick, before I moved on to this, because it's on this topic. So, what's the best way to access what our individual needs might be without having a tiny home? Meaning, like, they want a tiny home, but they don't know what life is like in a tiny home yet. How do they know what they want in a tiny home in a standard home? Great question. A tiny house, like a regular sized house, even like a very, very large house, still has very similar components. It has the basic necessities for habitation: an area to sleep, an area to cook, an area to sit, an area to, use the restroom, and an area to shower. They all, not all of them, but most tiny homes have all of those components. Most large houses have all of those same components. Tiny houses just kind of smush them all into a small package and then find ways to make them not feel all those things just smushed into a small package. That's why people love tiny homes, because you have to figure out how to do that and still make it look good and still make it feel comfortable. But Deanna, to get back to your question, when you want to learn, what your routine is, what your lifestyle is, start either, you can stick stickers on stuff. That's, one of the easiest ways because it's super visual if you're a visual person. Otherwise, just start thinking about your routine. Every human being has a routine. Think about, stuff. That's one thing that you can't take with you in a tiny house. You can't take a ton of stuff. It doesn't mean that you have to throw it in a dumpster. Maybe you have a tiny house and a storage shed, or a tiny house and a shipping container. Or, I have more tools. I would fill 10 tiny homes with tools. So I would need like a big warehouse, or like a barn dominium thing. I don't know. But you kind of have to figure out what it is that you have, what you use on a regular basis, what's the important things in your life. We've put in huge pieces of furniture for clients that had these antiques that they've been, keeping with them their entire lives, passed down. And they go, we're just going to sell it. No, if you love this piece of furniture, bring it into your home because you're going to get joy by seeing it. If you have this big espresso maker, but you think it's too big for your tiny home, bring it in there. If you use it every day, the first day you wake up in your tiny house, if you can't make an espresso on that machine, you're immediately going to think in your head, even if it's, subconsciously, you're going to be depressed or upset about it. And that's exactly the opposite of what tiny home builders and designers want you to feel. We want you to wake up the first day and feel like it was always been your home. Even if it's one of our models that isn't specific to you, we still want to make it so that you can change it to make it feel like a home. Anyways, I can add more to that later. To keep going. Got on like a real passionate thing there. Okay. Choosing a builder. I'm going to try and be, once again, as unbiased as humanly possible here. Because obviously, choose us. It's so easy. Why even? I could skip this slide right now. Okay. Choose a builder. Say it's not us, some other person. Do your research. Research, whatever that entails. Look up other people that have bought, look up reviews, look up, all the normal stuff that you would do to research anything that you planned on buying. You're spending a lot of money. Most people don't just go to the first car dealership that they saw because it's near their house and go, I'll take it. The very first thing they see very rarely happens. Not saying it never happens, but it's not very common. Do your research, find somebody that you vibe with. Find ones in your area. That's a great place to start. Or areas that you plan on moving. If you came to me and you go, Nick, I want you to build us a house, and we're moving to Wisconsin. I don't know. I mean, I know it's cold, but that's about it. I don't know regulations in Wisconsin. I would have to either one, do the research, which could take quite some time, or two, you would have to tell me what it is that I'm building. And I would still being my due diligence self, I would still do the research, which once again, it takes more time. Time's money, obviously. So I prefer to find a builder. If you're on the West Coast or you're looking for somebody on the West Coast, call us. We know the West Coast. If you're looking for somebody in, Florida that knows how to do whatever the heck happens in Florida, hurricanes and, Sharknadoes or something. I don't even know what happens there, but I know it's got crazy weather. Find a builder that specializes in that. That's what I would do. Gators. There you go. There's got to be some type of like gator proofing thing for underneath. I'm sure there is. So anyways, and then the next one would be how they communicate. If okay, great. There's a guy in my area. He's, been in business for a really long time. I've been calling him for months and I can't get a hold of him, or, he won't call me back, or, whoever. I went down there and then they were there, but then he won't return my thing. Now maybe it's something where they're busy. If it's 2 days or something, or even, like a long weekend, us builders are all crazy busy. And most of us don't have like personal assistants kind of answering phone calls, or assistants to a personal assistant answering a phone call. So bear in mind that. But if it's like 6 months, or like, and they're like, oh yeah, they said they'd build my house and now they haven't talked to me in 6 months, maybe choose a different builder. Communication's pretty key, especially if it's something custom. If it's not, and you're buying a floor model, that's totally different. You don't really need to, I would still want them to communicate just to follow up with them if you had questions. But other than that, find somebody that you can communicate with, whatever that may entail. What type of house? If you're looking for a custom, other model, you name it, choose, commercial project. Maybe you just are looking for a builder that can, you own a restaurant and you need extra restrooms. I don't know. And you want somebody just to build restrooms. There's plenty of us that do that. So find that person. Look how long they've been in business. I don't know that it's I wouldn't say it's the most important thing, but it's definitely important. The reason being is it's pretty obvious, but the longer they've been in business, the more houses they've built, the more clients they've dealt with, the more kind of everything, which is just experience. We have went through, all the mistakes I think we could possibly have made, but we still obviously make mistakes. No one's perfect, but we learn from those mistakes, and then the houses become better and better and better, and you don't have silly stuff that we were doing, in 2013 and 14 when we first started building, because we figured it out. So that has a factor. How many homes have we built? Same thing. If they're 6 months old and they've built 2,000 homes, they're probably lying. In fact, I would say they're 100% lying. Probably don't go to that person. But if there's nothing wrong with a young builder. In fact, most of the time, you can get a less expensive house from a newer builder. They need the work. They're willing to do them for free, or to even take a loss just so that they can keep going. We've all been there. Any builder on this call would say the same thing. all taking jobs that, were just to pay our employees, or it was just because we really liked the project and we knew that we couldn't charge enough to make money on it. We've done that one a bunch. But anyways, consider your budget. That's always a factor. Consider lead times. Every builder in the country right now, crazy busy. We all have massive lead times, depending on what you're buying. We have production models that are, they come out every week, and then we have other models that have a little bit of a delay, and then customs we're out forever. Okay. Oh, this is great. Understanding tiny home pricing. Why do tiny homes cost so much? I mean, that's a relative term, obviously, but I'm just trying to hit some of these frequently asked questions or questions that I see pop up, because personally, I don't think they cost that much. Screen's fuzzy again. All right, hold on. I'm going to turn my camera off. Oops. All right, can you guys see me? No? Screen's fuzzy. Mike, better? No? Yes? Well, I'm going to assume it's better. About the same. Keep rocking. Okay. Not much. Okay. Well, let me get through. I'll get through this slide, and then I will refresh. I only have a few more, guys, and I'll try and punch through them a little bit fast, and then Scott can show you guys some videos, and then I can use the restroom. So I'll refresh right after this. Tiny homes used to be less money. Yes. These are the quick, short answers. Inflation. I'm not talking about recent inflation, like, hey, in the last 3 months, gas prices went up, 250%. I'm talking about more like over the last 10-year span. Just general cost of everything has been going up. Material pricing increasing, and availability mostly came from 2020 pandemic related stuff till now. We're starting to see kind of a drop off on some wood products, but steel, appliances, windows, there's so many different items that are still really, really costly out there. Pandemic issues, professional builders. So this is one thing that it's hard to, I think once you explain it to people, they understand, but as businesses grow, the cost for that same product, well, not only because, you're dealing with inflation, material price, and all this other stuff, but the cost of the product grows because of overhead. When I was building by myself and with my dad, I had no employees. I had no anything. I wasn't even charging my own labor. I was just working at night after my regular job, building tiny homes. We could sell them, we made like a couple $1,000 and we were like jumping for joy, and you could sell them for almost material cost. Whereas once you get to be a larger company, it's not so easy to do that because you have labor, you have workers' comp, you have building rentals, and yada, yada, yada. I'm sure you guys can understand all that. And then demand, the demand for tiny homes is crazy. Call any builder in the country. They're all swamped, or at least most of the ones I know are. Oops. Okay, I'm going to do a real quick refresh. Give me 1 sec. Quality goes up, build time gets shorter as you grow as well. That's true. Oh, well, Scott. Yeah, I was like, wow, yeah, that's exactly right. Scott, you're right. The quality does go up, because you have that experience. Experience costs money. So people do charge more for their experience. There's like some old fable about a guy with a boat. I won't go into it because I don't know the story. So I'll just embarrass myself telling it. But look it up. It's good and talks about that. How to prepare yourself for tiny living. This is not just like, hey, I'm going to be going living tiny. This is the whole process. Being, how do I, what do I do? Where do I start? And this is what I would suggest. Most of these ones, again, are my opinions. For those of you who joined that weren't here earlier, these are mostly opinions. For DIY, buying from a pro, always consider your budget. That's going to be a huge factor into everything. Contact builders early, not only because of our lead times on especially customs, but we are an awesome resource. At some point in time, we were like the only resource. You could call us and you could figure out where you could put them and what they cost and what they weigh and all of these other different elements and where to get loans for them. We are a great resource. Not always. Not our builders are great builders. They're not all great resources. I'll let you figure out who's who. Contact early part 2. We're all really busy. We're doing the best we can to ramp up production, offer, different types of models in addition to all the other stuff so that more people can go tiny, more people can get their investment homes, or more people can, start their communities. Figure out what type of custom, do you want a custom? Do you want a model you're buying? What drives you towards tiny homes in general? Talk to builders, talk to your friends, talk to families, like-minded people online. Go to these festivals and get involved. The more involved you are, I think the easier the process is. There's a ton of resources out there. You just have to reach out to them. Consider your lifestyle. I talked about this a second ago, lifestyle and routine. How much of that changes when you go tiny? There's some parts are good, some parts are bad. If your lifestyle and routine right now is working 3 jobs just to afford to live in Oakland, California, and buying and moving into a tiny home means that you can quit 2 of your jobs and spend time with, your family or friends, that's a huge change in lifestyle, but it's all for the good. Maybe you're living in a smaller house, but you have your life back, and that's where tiny home, that's not a lot of people think about it that way. They think, oh yeah, I can't buy a regular house, so I'm going to buy a tiny home. But it's the people that need the tiny home that really works for them. Yeah. Moving on. Sell your home. You already own a tiny home right now. Let's pretend, or maybe you do, and you want to sell your home. You absolutely can. The resale market is strong because people don't want to wait for homes to come out of those build to order tiny home, companies. Find something, we'll talk about, online resources. Try online resources, but be careful. I would say at least a quarter of them have problems, and that's why they're selling them. So just be careful. But if you were wanting to buy a house or sell your house, contact your builder. We've helped, we haven't had a ton of clients sell their home, but the ones that have, we've helped them sell their homes. In certain circumstances, we had clients that wanted to buy the exact same, house. And so we said, oh, hey, boom, here it is. A little bit older, but it's exactly the same house. It works. And then some will help you find it per commission and stuff. Make sure you disclose issues if you're selling your house on a tiny home listings or one of those other things. Like I said, so many houses are on there that are just messed up, and people are trying to ditch them so they can buy another tiny house, but don't say what the problems are. If you're selling a DIY, meaning you built it yourself or you bought a DIY and now you're trying to get rid of it, do your best to bring it up to code. Call some of these inspection companies. Their DIYs are the hardest to sell, and in some places, it's not legal to do so. How am I doing blurry wise, guys? Better? Good? Amazing? Fabulous. I love that. Thanks, Zach. So, this is probably the most, I think one of the biggest, group of questions that we get, or at least that I get, especially when I go to these, tiny house events, is using tiny homes as investments. I don't know if there's just a lot more money around, or these people that are investing all these, real estate market now are the king of the blurry. Am I still blurry? Dang it. Scott, damn you. You're blurring me up. There. Okay. Before I finish this then, because this is a good one. I don't want to be blurry for investments. Yeah. No. I want you to see me. You must see me. You must all look at me. I will refresh real quick. Scott, if you want to say hi now. See? Okay. Where was I? See, it can't be the internet. It's like within a 30-second period. All right. While there's no blur, I'm going to hit this one home. Using tiny homes as investments. The market is crazy strong for this right now. Selling tiny homes, I mean. Become a reseller, become a dealer for a tiny home builder. Very few of them offer this. We are one that does. But if you do find one and you think you're good at sales, or you think you could, hey, I could, scrounge together some money and buy a handful at wholesale prices, and you believe that you could sell them, most people can't. Just having somebody walk through a tiny house, right now is, especially if they're in California anyways, for sure. Buy units and rent them. Whether it's a full-time rental, vacation rental, it doesn't really matter. The return is still there. Now, obviously, if you can do a vacation rental or some type of community or half and half where you have, full-time and part-time, you're talking about a lot more investment capital up front, but the return on investment is there. Promise you. It's insane. We can talk more about this later. If you ever want to know more about investments, reach out to me. Create a community. It is not easy to do. That's the truth. The money's there, but it's not easy to do. Most of what you see right now it's already starting to get blurry. Dang it. Okay. The most common way that you see a tiny home community right now is a converted recreational vehicle and or mobile home park. Why is that? Because it's extremely easy to do it that way. It is not easy to buy a piece of land zoned for, high density housing and say, I want to put movable tiny homes on it, because they're not considered property. You could put a modular tiny home on it, but you couldn't do a movable. And that's typically what people want to do, mainly because they want to be able to, hey, this house needs rehab or this house needs whatever. I'm going to sell it off and replenish it with a new one so that I don't get stuck as a landlord always having to fix things. At least that's what I would do. Rent out space to park a tiny home. Now, if you have bought a house or whatever and you have an RV pad and you have no intention of putting an RV, rent the space out or buy a tiny home and rent it out. You're more likely to find a renter if you bought the unit and rented it out than you are to offer it to somebody who's, being there. Because then you have to find someone that owns a tiny house and works or has some type of work that they can do in the area. It's much more difficult than just finding somebody in the area that needs a place to stay. Because I don't care where you go in the country, every single place has a person that needs a place to stay and is looking for either a rental, a bedroom, something. That's an opinion though, not there's no fact behind that, but I'm pretty sure it's a fact. Somebody could look it up and tell me. Now, I talked about the individual part, or you could take that space, assuming that it's nice. I mean, probably not a lot of builders are going to put them like just in a regular resident, like a cul-de-sac with the RV parking. But if you had a cool spot and you reached out to a builder and said, "Hey, I would love to make a little extra money. I have this RV spot. It doesn't cost me a lot." And you created a partnership with builder where they took one of their models or they took a unit, put it on, the site. You took care of the cleaning portion. They took care of, getting it booked, and together you both profit from it. When they sell a house, they give you, a portion for letting it be on there. You make a little bit of extra money. And then when the house sells, boom, they bring in another one. It's a great try before you buy. Oh, yeah. I'm just kind of reading them off anyways, but I can do that. Boop. There you go. It's a great way to do a try before you. I'm so tiny. It's a great way to do it like a try before you buy kind of experience. Here, how about that? Does that work? Now you could fit. Yeah, I know. Okay. I'll leave myself miniaturized. And if I need to go, I need to get my Ant-Man thing on, I can go even smaller. So here we go. Moving on. Because it's almost got Scott's turn. How to. There's another one. How do I get more involved? How do I get more involved in the movement? How do I get more involved in the legislation? How do I get more involved with, selling homes and making money in the industry? Join social media groups. Join ATHA. That's the American Tiny House Association. If you want to be involved in finding housing for, housing insecure, homeless vets, kids aging out of foster care, ATHA is an awesome program that is focused most of their efforts now on creating affordable housing in that affordable housing space using church parking lots and various other, entities, and partnering with other nonprofits to, house the unhoused, I guess. Join THEA. Yes, it's an industry association, but it's open to literally everybody. Anybody can be a member. There's commercial members, individual members, ton of resources. I don't know everybody that's a member, but from the interactions that I've had, super great people, super nice, all wanting to help. We're all in this together. If you really are passionate about tiny homes, jump in there. It's great. It's $25 a year. The money goes to good causes. It goes to advocacy for all of this legislation happening in the country. If you're a builder and you're on this call, you should absolutely be on the National Tiny Home Builders Committee. I'm inviting you right now, so just join it. Go to tiny house events, meet us, meet the builders, meet the vendors, meet like-minded people, eat some tacos and cinnamon rolls or whatever it is that you like there, and mingle with people. It's a great way to get pretty good information, but it's a great way to network. Okay. Oh, lost my train of thought there for a minute. Financing. This is another one that I got. This is another one that we get a lot. And it's kind of, it's tough. But it doesn't have to be. I think people make financing a tiny home more difficult than it's supposed to be. So let's break it down. The first thing you have to do is you have to figure out what type of tiny house you want. Do you want the kind that you see hooked up to a normal pickup truck driving around, the highway, or like a movable tiny home, classified as a recreational vehicle usually? Do you want a modular where it's classified as like a single family residential? Or do you want a HUD unit, also known as a manufactured tiny home? Because all three have different opportunities. The movable one, you can get a RV loan for, a personal loan for. You can, borrow money from friends or family members, home equity lines of credit. And if you are working with a builder that's been in business for a while, they usually have other opportunities for 20, 15, 21, 23, even up to 30-year loans, even on a movable. Now, if you're doing a modular, it's usually a construction loan that converts into a traditional mortgage once the unit's connected on site. And if you're doing a manufactured, they actually have, or HUD, they'd have manufactured home loans that are similar in that they're a construction loan and then they morph into a mortgage, but you can also keep HUD units as personal property. And anyways, if you have more questions on that, it gets kind of confusing, so I won't sit here and confuse everybody at the very end, especially if I'm blurry. That'll just ruin everybody's night. Okay. How do you get tiny home facts? I remember I said I didn't want to say the fake news thing, but it's a true story. There is a lot of misinformation. If you find out that anything that I said was wrong, email me and I will send an email out apologizing. I do my best as a member of all these different organizations to try and stay on top of what is actually happening in the industry right now, what you can do, what you can't do, where you can place them, where you can't. Not that I'm going to tell you can't place something somewhere. I just simply say that it's not legal to do that. There's most of us out there do our best, but people are people, and some people, will create a different scenario that you can park them anywhere because they want to make a sale. Just saying, dishonest people out there, just beware of it. Thea is a great resource if you need, and there's other ones such as Thea, but Thea is a great resource, especially on the legislation side. They've got that pretty hammered in. Most of the people that are writing legislation are part of that organization. So that's why I know that they're providing, correct information. For info on living tiny legally, finding places to park, friendly areas, Thea is a good source. Now, I am a member of Thea, but I'm telling you, there's just not a lot of other information sources out there for tiny homes where you can go on legislation and say, okay, this is true. It's 100% right. Usually people steal from Thea on those topics. There you go. I'm going to leave this up for just like a second. I'm just trying to help out, an association that's trying to help all you tiny people out there. Scan it with your picture. I can bring it up later. Or you can just click on, like Loretta's got 50 emails or 50 messages that show you exactly what to go to. So I'll just let her handle it, actually. Do you need a job, Loretta? I would probably hire you. You're on point. She has so many. So do I. Okay. Where am I here? I'm going to shrink myself. I'm going to go micro Nick again. This is how you can reach us. Take a picture, screenshot it. It seems confusing because there's like 10 different emails on here and phone numbers and everything. Any one that you call, it's not like we have 50 people that answer emails and phones. There's literally 4 of us, and we're all family. So anything that you if you messed up or you email sales to get to a vendor thing, we'll just forward you to the right spot. So really, I could have just put one email, but it makes me look cooler if I put like 10 of them. So there you go. That's how you reach us. And then obviously, CaliforniaTinyHouse.com. That's an easy way to reach us. Oops. There's us, CaliforniaTinyHouse.com. I'm not going to worry about that because it's literally CaliforniaTinyHouse.com. You don't need to scan this with your picture. It just happened to be in this slideshow, which I thought was construction and design. Okay, it says now the Q&A. Don't ask questions yet. Scott has something he wants to show you. Scott, I took an hour and 42 minutes of my 2 hours. I told you I would leave time for Q&A. I didn't. I did the best I could. I had a lot to cover this time. Scott, show us what you want. This side is crystal clear. This is the least important slide. Oh my gosh. Okay, Scott, where are you? What's happening? There you are.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. Can everybody hear me? Excellent.
Hey Scott.
Okay.
Hey Scott, how do I make my screen smaller?
If you want to just make it disappear, turn off your microphone and your camera from the little buttons. There we go. Okay. So can everybody see me? Can everybody see me? Okay. So what we did earlier, I actually don't know what Nick showed you guys. I only caught a couple minutes of it in there. I was trying to hook the internet up on my side. But if you guys have any questions, ask them. I will try to answer them as I go. But first, I don't know if he showed it to you already, but I have a little tour of the shop that we shot just a little while before this started. So I'm going to go ahead and play that. And you guys think of your questions. I will take a look at them as we go. And I'll try to refresh first, I guess I need to. Am I blurry? Who says I'm blurry besides Nick? I think it's Nick. That is the blurry one. Tiny bit. Okay. Wow. A little blurry. That's okay. Well, I tested everything on the internet, so it seems like the connection is really strong. It's probably something on the server end on the run the world stuff, but it doesn't matter. We'll play the video, and if the connection isn't great, it might be a little chaotic, but you can still kind of hear what he's saying. So I'm going to go ahead and play that now.
Welcome to our new shop. So unlike before, we used to build, we had a bunch of different bays. Well, it was a great space to start in, but it was really inefficient because we kind of had to move around everything. Whereas now we're in this big unified space, and kind of our focus is on production, building more houses each year, and lean manufacturing. So throughout the stations, the build basically progresses, and you can really get a feel for how
the progress of a tiny house.
Yeah, you can get Thanks, Scott. You can get a really good feel for the progression of the tiny house and how everything kind of fits together. See if I can squeeze through here. So obviously I just went through the framing, but as the house progresses through this assembly line, every little step gets done, and it's a really great way to maintain quality assurance because there's not so much chaos. It's really, really organized. Like I said, it's a lean manufacturing technique to make sure that everything is the same or all the boxes get checked. The most requested house that we get is for a single level, meaning no loft. But people use them as guest houses, ADUs, vacation homes. And because they're requested so many times, it's our welcome to our new shop. Thanks, Scott. House and through here. This is through this assembly line. Every little step gets done, and it's a really great way to maintain quality assurance because there's not so much chaos. It's really, really organized. Like I said, it's a lean manufacturing technique to make sure that everything is the same or all the boxes get checked. The most requested house that we get is for a single level, meaning no loft. But people use them as guest houses, ADUs, vacation homes. And because they're requested so many times, it's our
Okay, so it froze there. Like I said, we just made it earlier. I'm going to go ahead and just refresh the video side of it. We can watch the second half of it in a little bit. But do you guys have any questions for me on the design side that you maybe have been thinking of during whatever Nick was talking about? Like I said, I didn't catch much of that. And if you don't, I'm going to just talk a little bit about what I do if Nick didn't already do that. With Nick, kind of come up with the layouts and the designs of the tiny houses that we do here. Most stuff we do is really, tailored to, if it's a custom, tailored to an individual, the way they live, the things they do on a daily basis. I know Nick talked a little bit about that, but it's really important that anything that we build fits your daily life and routine. We recently started building, and what he was going to show you, and we'll still get back to that. We recently started doing a lot of just reaching out to people and surveying sort of the most important things, and that coupled with just sort of the huge bank of data that we have from people's questions and submissions throughout the years, the most important things to most people. And we just started designing a model based on sort of the biggest asks and the most frequent requests when it comes to tiny houses. So one of the sort of the new house that we have as our model tries to bring all those things in. One of those things is that it has a large kitchen. It has a full-size refrigerator. Well, a really big refrigerator versus like an under-counter fridge. And then actually the biggest question that we get is the biggest ask we get is for single level tiny homes. So our main model, the one that we're building most of through this year, is a single level tiny house. So it actually has a separate bedroom. I think Nick may have shown you guys what that house looks like, but I'll kind of give you a quick overview real quick. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is a little bit of an earlier draft of the house from one of the drawings that we were doing. But the house is full height, so it goes up as high as the tiny house is allowed to go, and it's broken up rather than being what we like to call and detest building is what we call hallway houses. So we try to get houses that have a little bit of dynamics to them, that feel comfortable, and they don't feel as much like a mobile home or an RV where everything is just along the sides of the house, all the way down, and you just kind of have like a central racetrack that goes back and forth up and down the house. In this way, the houses tend to feel a little bit more comfortable, and even though you can see all the way down the house, especially with the placement of windows, we get a lot of just comfortable and dynamics in the space. So as we go along here, let me switch back. So the kitchen being bigger, having a downstairs bedroom means that it is a bigger house. So you don't have a loft like on top of something, which means that when you get taller ceilings everywhere in the house, but two, the house typically is going to be a little bit longer than a house with a loft, which is pretty cool. So somebody says frozen. Is it still frozen right now? Or can you guys hear me? Okay, good. All right. So um, taking those things into consideration, we kind of made a house that felt really comfortable, felt really big. There's tons of space, especially in the main body of the house, which has really tall windows. I mean, the windows go all the way up to the ceiling almost, especially on the view side, the side that passes out to the kitchen, and then there's a ginormous window in the bedroom, and there's also two doors. So placement is one thing that can be kind of tricky on a lot of properties. You know, we like to be able to have sort of a main access entry point and then a secondary entry point or egress point. Some certain areas actually require this as a building inclusion in the code, but we want to make sure that we make that option available and just bake it into the system. So in the design, I don't know if Nick pulled up some of the house, but I will pull some up right now and show you guys the model that we're building. And it's pretty sweet. So I'll pull up just a top view first. Maybe. There we go. Oh, it's just going to float right there. Okay, that's fine. So if you guys can see this, we have a downstairs bedroom. Well, I mean, it could be a bedroom, it could be an office. In some of the options, we're doing a Murphy bed, which means you can use that room for a lot of things, not just a bedroom. So it's kind of like it's like the benefits of a loft without the downsides of a loft, like climbing into bed all the time or having to make a bed sort of crouched down or on your knees. This way, you have a bed that you can just flip up out of the way and use for a lot of different things. So let me pull some other pictures that we did. House. So talking just about how bright and open the house is, it is really important that we had as many windows as possible, but also not so many windows that it was impractical. So we try to find a balance. You have some wall space, say if you want to have a TV or if you want to hang some pictures or just the practical things, like furniture and stuff you might put up against a wall. So this is sort of the window, the most windowed 2/3 of the house right here. You'll notice immediately that there is a lot of kitchen going on. That's another thing. Tiny houses don't have to have a micro kitchen. They don't have to have just like a little tiny kitchenette or something that you would only find in like a hotel room. They can have a real kitchen with a large fridge, a lot of workspace, a lot of work counter space. And then things like great deep sinks and microwave that you can actually bake in because it's a convection microwave. I don't know if anybody's actually used induction cooktops, but since I started using an induction cooktop, I prefer it quite a bit to a gas cooktop as far as precision and just how fast it instantly heats up like super crazy fast, and there's a lot of control too. So anyways, this is a really cool kitchen, and thanks Nick for chiming in on that. And hey, Michelle, if you just try using an induction cooktop, just try it out. It's kind of a mind blower if you use it. So just it's worth a shot. So here's kind of looking at the kitchen from the living room side. So again, there's a lot of counter space. There's a lot of versatility. There's actually, because it's a 10-foot wide house, it's a 10 by 32. So it's a 10 wide house. You can actually even get, if you wanted it like a narrow little work island or something, you could move around or tuck out of the way. You could even do that as well. Now it's not too far that you couldn't turn around and put stuff from one counter to the other, but you could absolutely do that. So one of the things, I think Susan actually just made a comment on all the windows and has it do in southern summers. Well, it does great. What you want to make sure you do with tiny houses, because the window to volume ratio is always skewed a lot more to the window direction, is you really need to, one, use really good windows, which we of course do, low E, thicker windows that are multi-pane. And then also you want to treat your windows. You want to treat your windows. You want window treatments because you want to have something that will not only give you privacy when you want it, cut down on the light when you want to have a midday movie afternoon or something like that, but also something that doesn't let so much that keeps a lot of the heat and temperature from having a lot of southern exposure. I'm talking like the actual direction the house is pointing. The windows that we use and the windows that we recommend are all have a very high insulation value, and super recommended. So definitely don't don't not have some kind of window treatment or something if you're going to be having this many windows in a house. You want to be able to close things up or open them. And also uh, the AC units that we use are insanely efficient. And in Fresno, when it's 110, with no problem, they keep a house super cool, and they're not just running constantly either. So they're really an effective way of climate control. So let me throw up another one real quick here, and we can see. So I have a picture here that I did of a bedroom with a Murphy bed, and then you can also see where we have a built-in space for a washer dryer combo unit. Um, it's optional in the model that we're doing, but it is kind of tucked in a spot underneath the main closet, where if you wanted to have a washer dryer unit in the house, you could absolutely do that there. And even though it's not right up against an outside wall, it is a vented unit. I can't stress enough how poorly the non-vented units actually function. They're not great. They take forever to dry. They often don't dry. There's mildew things. There's a lot of issues. But the vented units, combo units, are great. They wash your clothes, then they dry your clothes. So you put your clothes in dirty, they come out clean and dry. It's pretty cool. Yeah. And then what I have and what I recommend are actually, like, top down, bottom up shades, ones that are either darkening or even blackout shades. And you can pull down from the top and let a lot of light in, but still get the privacy and the light, the light blocking. Or you can pull them all the way up or all the way down out of the way. They're pretty cool. They also make dual windows where you have a dual shade top down bottom ups, where you have two different materials, like a filtering and a blackout, and you can slide between the two of them. Those are pretty cool too. I will say that make sure that you get them in a similar color, because they kind of look crazy, and then some of the darkening shades tend to sag in those in those dual tones, and um, the top one will like creep down on you. So, anyways, that aside, if you get them the same color, that's not really a problem. Okay, I've got one more picture, just we can kind of peek a little bit into the bathroom on this one, and kind of see. So the bathroom, we wanted to make sure that the bathroom, uh, is it blurry? All right, I'll refresh. Give me 1 second. Oh, okay. Still blurry? It'll go in and out. I'm guessing it's a server thing, but well, I'll try refreshing it again before the video. I think the video was maybe too much of a bit rate being sent to this thing. So yeah, so you can see the bathroom. We wanted to make sure we had a really big shower. We still had some storage. There's a medicine cabinet that you can put stuff in, but also a small cabinet below. And then there still needs to be room. I feel, in a tiny house, in any tiny space, if there's a bathroom, you still want to have enough room to like change. If you want to have a little bit more privacy, there has to be room to actually move around. Those little closet bathrooms that a lot of tiny houses have, there's nothing wrong with those on a vacation house type of basis, but having having an incredibly tiny bathroom doesn't give you a lot of latitude to you know dry off after your shower without hitting your elbows into the walls and stuff. Okay, I'll try to refresh this again and turn everything off just a second. Okay, we'll see how it goes as far as clarity here. So this again, that was our new tiny house that we're building as a model. And I will see if that other one is ready. It's ready already. We can go ahead and watch a little tour of the actual house we're building. So we're building a bunch of these things. If you saw in the beginning of the shop tour, we have sort of an assembly line set up, whereas before we were building houses in a bunch of individual little bays. Now we can build them a lot quicker, especially if we're sort of mass producing a single style, even though there's some variation on what we can do with the house. So let me go ahead and pop this guy open. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, and nope, it's not gonna work. We'll try it as a smaller size so it doesn't get blocked up. Can you guys still see me? Is it blurry? Because I can't see you. Okay, apparently Nick doesn't like things and he wants you to tell you why later. That's fine. Let me show you. I don't know if you guys. I don't think Nick showed. Did Nick show you guys the outside of the house? Because that seems important as well. Outside of the house? Outside of the house? No. Oh, well, there's a bit of debate on that. Looks like somebody did, somebody didn't. I'll show you an outside one real quick. Here we go. So this is a different color than what he might have showed you. But if you guys can see, so the house is set up again with a two entry door type of layout. The main door on the long side of the house, or the I guess you'd say the passenger side of the house. If you were pulling this from a vehicle, you could see where it is. The other door is on the back side or the living room side, and it's a sliding door. So it actually functions as a giant window and a cool secondary entry door. We have a couple options as to what the outside of the house can look like, and we're building kind of just like, when cars are built in different colors, we have based on what people want. Oh, thanks, Nick. It is a nice looking house. Based on what people want. So we're doing either in a painted, we're offering in white, but of course it can be painted in any color, and metal, and we're doing also a clear cedar and metal. We have 2 different metals, and we have a bunch of different stuff that we can do as far as the look. Some other window things and stuff like that too. But it's a super cool house. Okay, so here's the same house in the cedar, and just a little bit of a different, same exact, nothing's changed on the house. It's the same exact house, except the windows are a different color because they're a vinyl window and they're white, and the metals, the lighter color metal, and the cedar is clear cedar instead of painted shiplap. So we like shiplap, as you know, if you've seen a lot of our houses. We actually love our shiplap. We do shiplap on the inside of the house. We do shiplap as a primary body color on the outside of the house as well. Whether it's whether it's either painted or it's a natural wood. I would say, as far as the durability, both are in the higher class. The metal is virtually maintenance free for its lifetime. The wood is a natural wood, so it does need a little bit of upkeep, but no more than it would be if you had a small section of your house. The good thing about a tiny house, whether it's paint, after 10, 15 years, or cedar, where you're, every once in a while you're putting another coat of protective coat on it, is there's not very much house to paint or to treat, especially in this house, because the whole back side of the house is all metal. It's really just two, it's about half of the front and then one whole end of the house. So you kind of have a lot of, you don't have that much stuff that you would need to maintain, and it does add a whole lot to the quality of the house, I would say, and to the feel of the house when you kind of see it. All right, so it looks like we have video is ready, so we can actually walk through this house. So I'm going to go ahead and try to play it one more time. I'm going to skip ahead about to where we were, and we'll see where we're at. You guys let me know if it plays. If it's blurry or choppy, there's nothing I can do about that. You can say it though.
Press through this assembly line. Every little step gets done, and it's a really great way to maintain quality assurance because there's not so much chaos. It's really, really organized. Like I said, it's a lean manufacturing technique to make sure that everything is the same or all the boxes get checked. The most requested house that we get is for a single level, meaning no loft. But people use them as guest houses, ADUs, vacation homes. And because they're requested so many times, it's our main model that we're focusing on this year. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't do customs or we won't do other models, but this is kind of the main thing that we're doing this year. And it's huge. It's on a 32 by 10 foot platform. Come on, let's go. We'll keep going here. We've got one of the same models that we just walked through, but a little bit further along. All right. So here we are. Kitchen, living room, nice big living room with space for, it's like an 8-foot sofa or something. Huge, tall, full 8-foot height cabinets. And that's one of the best things about it. Even though this is a single level tiny home, meaning there's no loft, we still maximize the full height. I mean, it feels huge in here, especially with all these really tall windows.
How tall are they?
Very tall.
Good answer.
I mean, I can touch an 8-foot ceiling, so they go all the way to the 8-foot height, and then 2 feet above that. So tons and tons of window space. The kitchen has, you have your sink side, you have a table, the cooking side, refrigerator. I mean, look at the size of it. Just this refrigerator alone is.
If you've seen some of the refrigerators we do,
huge.
This is the tallest version of that.
Yeah, this is an extreme tiny house refrigerator. One of the requests that we got was for a full-size refrigerator. Well, a full-size refrigerator may or may not fit in a tiny home, but this is the closest thing that we could get to it while still maintaining that tiny house feel and giving everybody enough space.
It's like 6.5 feet tall.
It is 6.5 feet tall. It's over 6.5 feet tall. It's a big fridge. For 1 to 2 people, even a couple with kids, more than enough. Oh, this is actually kind of cool. If you pretend this scaffolding was like a countertop outside of your like a deck area, you can actually use this as our countertop's moving. You could actually use it. You could actually use it as like an outdoor prep area or something that you could a pass-through window. That's the word I was looking for. Okay.
The water that goes here is actually kind of the same height as the window.
What is? And what's cool is it's all made from this awesome acacia countertop. That's the other thing is when we were designing this new model, our newest model, we wanted to go start at premium and then step up to exceptional. We didn't want to start as a base model. So everything that we've used in here is already very, very high quality. Very high quality. Soft close drawers, all plywood construction. Really, really awesome floors with a 50 warranty. Everything, like I said, everything's been kind of thought in like the premium thing to start. Bathroom. 3x3 shower, comes in tile or a one piece. A bedroom with space to walk around your bed. That was another request that we got. Depending on what size bed, obviously if you use like a king size bed, you're probably only have enough space to walk one side. But if you use a queen, definitely have some space. And then the smaller beds you go, the more space you have on either side. You could also put Murphy bed, or if you want to, you could sleep out there and you could use this space as office. I mean, it's really flexible in that way. Disregard this light. It's just for testing purposes. But another huge window, still at that 8-foot height. This, I mean, it's 6 by 6 or something.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, it's like just this huge window and closet.
Not to mention the cool bump out utility garden window.
Yeah.
Rather than just having a window.
I mean, you could sit here. I won't, but you could. Or you could just have plants or your little knickknacks.
Figure out what they're going to do.
You can do whatever you want here. I make
Which is
suggestions.
cool because it's over the utilities. So instead of just having a window and then like a little roof or something, we just made it into space.
Yep.
On the inside of that.
Don't waste it. Never waste your space. So, and then closet, which right now is exposing the utilities for the washer dryer. If you wanted to put a combo, you could actually put that here. The way the house comes with additional shelving. But like I said, everything has the utility hookups, so it's ready to go whenever you add one. All right, dropping down. Ugh. All right. This is still one of our custom. We actually have 3 customs kind of over here. You can pan, and we'll show more of this later.
Once it's a little further along.
It's a little further along. Well, yeah, once it's a little further along, and we actually take our pictures and all of this stuff. But it's got a really unique. It's got a really unique design, more so than a lot of tiny houses because of what we did dimensionally. But yeah, it's cool. This one does have a loft, by the way, and like a couch, window, seat, and custom cabinetries and LED backlit stairs. It's a cool house. And then behind me, 2 more customs. We also have more houses outside. We have, like I said, in the beginning, we have a ton of space here. Our focus is building as many houses for you guys as humanly possible this year, next year, and for the foreseeable future. Check out the space, man. This is great. And somebody's painting a guitar. Yeah. Looks good, though. Big, huge shop. Big, huge shop. All of our main tools, kind of our centralized hub of planing and sanding and all of that stuff. And then the spread of all the houses around us. Efficiency and maximizing production.
Cool. All right. We got it.
All right.
So I guess now, in an hour from now, this will be played, and they're going to be in there. So I guess you could say back to you, Nick.
Back to you, Nick. Or, yeah, see you guys in a minute.
Let's not use that. We won't use that.
Back to you, Nick.
All right.
Back to you in the station.
Okay, well, I guess not back to Nick, but Nick, if you want to pop in, you absolutely can. There we go.
Back to Nick.
I think your microphone's off.
Oh, it is?
Okay. Back to Nick. All right. Here, I'll turn mine.
See? So, do I look blurry right now? Oh, Scott. A little. Only a little. So, am I more or less blurry than I was before? Less. 34.98%. I like that. Can I see before and after? Before and after what? For blurriness? Okay. Well, if I'm better for sure, it's because I'm no longer using my shop internet. I'm actually running off of my phone. So, Lisa, thank you for reminding me. Why don't I like walk-in tubs? So, prior to building tiny homes, I, with my father, was a kitchen and bathroom installer, room additions. We did like a bunch of remodels. Scott was a kitchen and bathroom designer, actually. Little tidbit of information there. But we tore out a ton of those tubs. What we heard, the biggest negatives about them is that, and I always thought they were really cool.